there's so many different ways to get there. And I think some people get booked right from the get-go, and some people take years until they finally... It's a foreign language. If you've never done it before, you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And then when you start doing it more and more, it's like, oh, I get it now. Taking this out, we're like going over waves. And I remember the director was like, fuck this, we're getting a bigger boat, I'm done with this movie. Really not. Now I believe in myself a bit more, and it's so cliche, but it just happens. It takes a while, and you kind of suck at it for a really long time.
But eventually,
eventually you just start getting better. You don't even notice it until you look back and you're like, wow.
You know where I could see you though? I think like you would make like a really good Dexter.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like a vampire, or like a fucking sorcerer, like a wizard, or some shit like that.
Sexy vampire, okay. Where I was like, you know what? I'm still super proud of you because you worked really hard at it. I think every situation you find yourself in, even if you don't enjoy it, there's always a lesson to be learned there and take away. You hear a lot of actors say is like, do what works for you. But I think sometimes people try not to push, and you're pushing, not pushing. Does that make sense?
What's up, guys? We are back with another episode. Welcome, guys, again with another episode of Breakthrough. If this is your first time checking us out on YouTube, on Spotify, whatever, make sure to subscribe, to follow us on Breakthrough by Ali. But guys, without further ado, I have a very special guest for you guys tonight. A guy who is so talented. He's done it all. He's been on everything. He's been killing it lately, guys. Sam Braun, everybody.
What up?
What's up, man? Bro, it's such an honor to have you, man. You have no idea like how stoked. I think I'm more stoked to have you than you being here.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, sick. Bro, how was you said like you've been on a podcast before? This is like not the first one that you
I did Peter Grant's podcast, Access Granted.
Yeah. Access Granted. Is that what his podcast was called?
Yeah.
Fuck, I love that, bro. That's so sick. Access Granted. What a cool name. Yeah, so this is called Breakthrough. So again, a lot of people sometimes wonder what this podcast is about. Well, first of all, it's about inspiring people who are listening, watching, to go after their dreams. You know, like, because often we don't celebrate. We very often like associate breakthrough with like a big role, a big swing in our career. But I think like sometimes we undermine the small little wins that we have, right? So like just like small wins that we don't celebrate sometimes. These are breakthrough by themselves, and they should be celebrated equally as as anything that you get. Like whether that's like a dream job or like a big role. So that's kind of like what this what inspired the podcast in the first place, because we want to inspire people who have dreams and aspirations to go after theirs. And by having someone like you and some others who are making it, well, be like, oh well, if Sam can do it, then so can I.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So that's kind of how this has all started. Okay, cool. So take us back a little bit with your acting career. Like, how did you get started? Just like bring us back in time. Like, what were you doing before? Like, I know you and I met in the Foundry.
Yeah.
A few years back, but just like take us like
Yeah, I give you the whole lowdown. So grade 3 playing baseball.
Yeah.
And this lady comes up to my parents and was like,
you were playing baseball?
Yeah, for a brief period of time. It didn't last so long.
Right.
But this lady came up to my parents and was like, is that your son? And my mom and dad were like, oh no, what did Sam do? And she was like, nothing. He's just super cute. I think you do really well in commercials. I'm a casting director. I could help get Sam set up with an agent.
You got scouted?
I got scouted as a little
on a baseball game?
Yeah, 9-year-old blonde boy. Just
what was the casting director doing at a baseball game?
I think she lived in West Van, and maybe she had a kid playing there too or something.
Wow.
I don't know exactly.
Right.
How it
like,
is.
yo, this guy's like commercial TV material.
Yeah, totally. And I'm like just like happy-go-lucky kid, so I was like, okay, like that sounds pretty fun, getting to play with toys and whatnot. And so sure enough, like I got an agent, and honestly, like really quickly after she moved on, so I got another agent, Mary Falcon, and I'm still with her today.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
been like since.
I mean, Play is obviously like it's just they're so big. Like,
Yeah.
you're so like yeah, you're in good hands with them.
Well, and
Mary's amazing, yeah.
and I was with Mary from like kind of like not the beginning, but like
Yeah.
before Play was like known as Play Management.
Right.
And
So like, wait, for how long you been with Mary?
since like I was 10 years old or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like 15 years.
My goodness.
Forever.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But anyways, yeah, like I got started with Hot Wheels commercials when I was like a little 10-year-old. I did like 5 of those. Did like a Gerber commercial. And then I think in grade 7 I did Percy Jackson, and that was like my first big kind of like
are they they're shooting it right now?
The Percy Jackson
movie,
the second movie that they did. I played a young Luke
the other one,
in it. And that was like so fun as like a 12-year-old just being
so
like,
sick.
whoa, this is epic. But then after that, I got into high school and I got braces and I was kind of more focused on diving. That was the sport that I did growing up.
Yeah, guys, like if you guys don't know, like this guy cliff dives, like he does like cliff jumping. Like you guys should go and see its video. Like it's criminal, bro. Like it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be on Instagram.
Totally.
Just kidding. It's so inspiring, bro. Honestly, it's sick. Yeah.
It's lots of fun too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was still kind of acting in high school, but it wasn't my main focus. I was really kind of focused on diving.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of
So you were diving more than you were acting, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That like acting for me was just kind of, it was something that I was doing, but it wasn't, I maybe wasn't quite as passionate about it as it was with diving. And that's really what I kind of saw my future in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also my parents too, they were really adamant on me getting a scholarship down in the States because, you know, free school.
I guess it's also like easier to convince your parents like, hey, like, you know, I can have a diving career versus an acting career. Like, I mean, if I had to convince them, I think they'd probably be more convinced on the diving one.
I think
like athletes,
for the diving, it was really just getting the athletic scholarship, which was the big sell. And I think they, at a point where, especially my later years of high school, were the ones who were really strong on that idea.
Yeah.
But I had an elbow injury and I wasn't able to dive platform anymore because I was like diving like 10-meter platform. So I had to go to like back down just like the 3-meter springboard. And
that's crazy. That's amazing. So good, man. I mean, not the injury, but like
yeah. And it kind of just it didn't really pan out with the scholarship. I remember the Dartmouth coach. He was saying like, if you can get a 28 on your ACT, I think I can get you on the diving team. And I did the ACT like 4 times, and sure enough, on my 4th time, I finally get the 28. So I like send my results his way, and then he looks at my other grades, and he's like, "Yeah, no." Like I hadn't. I mean, if I really maybe put my mind to it, I have like a good chance at like going to an Ivy League school. But I think deep down, my heart was not there at all. I felt like a lot of pressure from, you know, like my parents, maybe even from like my coaches, and just like societal pressure as well to like go to university, like especially like a nice prestigious one, get a good education. And
that's what all of our parents want at the end of the day, right? Usually.
Totally. Yeah. And I think for me, I was just like, there were some nights where I was like crying in bed, just feeling like I just don't feel good about this. Like it just wasn't aligning with my soul, and it felt really difficult to be able to like voice that.
The diving stuff?
I think the scholarship route, like going to school. I love diving, but my elbow was also really sore, and it just kind of was like, could I do this for another 4 years at a high level? And
so like, I mean, just like
school.
I'm trying to like understand here.
Yeah.
So were you like when you said like you were diving, like were you like diving? Were you making money out of diving, or it's just like more like a passion thingy?
I mean, it was the sport that I did growing up. You know, kids play hockey, kids play soccer.
Yeah.
I was a diver.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I did that competitively. Like I was on BC team. I went to like nationals, Canada games.
Wow.
did like training camps
Did
in
you like
Cuba and stuff. And
did you consider the Olympics? I mean, that's kind of the highest, you know, thing you can get, like you want to go to, like as a diver.
yeah, I think like all like little
It,
kids are definitely like would love to do
it's
that.
like one of the things that I watch the most is the fucking diving competitions in
It
the
is,
Olympics.
I
It's
think, like
so
the
fucking,
second most watched sport in the Olympics or something.
it's so fun, man.
It's really cool.
Yeah, the Chinese, they're insane, bro.
The Chinese divers are really good, and I did a training camp
Yeah,
in China, Tianjin,
yeah.
where my coach was from, and it's a totally different kind of culture
Why are
out
they so
there.
good? I don't, like every time I see a Chinese diver,
Yeah,
bro, like, I mean, like sometimes like they have the what do you call it, like when two people dive at the same time?
synchronized.
Synchronized. Okay,
Yeah,
synchronized diving, bro. Like again, like not to take anything away from all the other countries, but bro, like China, they're like on another level, man. Like it's just like every time I see these guys fucking dive, there's barely any splash. It's just like they're so in sync. They never fucking mess up the whole the acrobatics or whatever. It's just like it's so beautiful to watch.
yeah.
Like how,
They
why are
are
they so good? I never
unreal
understood.
divers. Well, there's a lot of funding that goes into
Interesting.
their athletes,
Right.
and you know, when I went to that training camp,
Mm.
it's the divers kind of live in this like 1 block radius. It's like they have their dorms where they sleep, they have the cafeteria, they have their school, and then they have the pool. And they wake up, they eat, train, go to school, train,
This is like
eat.
literally going to school. Yeah.
And it's just that's all they do is it's just all diving. And that's kind of
Crazy.
from a young age, you know, when they're like 5 or 4 years old, they'll start off a year of diving. And it's really fun, and
Yeah.
all the coaches are just really trying to promote like how fun diving is and stuff. And they'll kind of scout out some potential prospects, and then they'll go to the parents and be like, "We can make your child an Olympic diver if you're willing to put the money up front."
Well, that's a bold statement to fucking say to our parents.
Yeah, and but they but they do, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally different than it is here. Like in North America, we have Canada and the States.
I mean, Canada, they're not
We
bad
have
actually.
really, really good divers.
We do. Yeah, yeah.
But you know, there's still
I mean,
like
Depatie
this.
was like a big one, right? Alexandre Depatie.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now like you know you have Kaylee McKay,
Yeah.
Nathan. There's all these really, really awesome divers.
Yeah, yeah,
Riley.
yeah.
But what I was trying to say is here it's still more kind of about like the enjoyment, the fun of the sport.
Right.
There's like it's a bit maybe more like balanced,
Right.
you know?
Whereas China, it seems like more like military, sort of like
in a way
ish, right?
it kind of it is. And
right? Yeah.
and yeah, so to like give you an example, you know, Canada can maybe send like 30 divers to pick from for the Olympic team,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll send 10. Over there, they'll have maybe like
Bro,
1,000 that they could pick from that could all be gold contenders, and they're so good.
That's crazy, yeah.
They're
So
absolute
what you're saying? So what you're saying is that there are some Chinese divers
yeah
that don't even make it to the Olympics, but so like some of the ones that are actually like that didn't make it are actually stronger than some regular divings from like other like random countries that are at the Olympics,
100%.
and they don't get to make it because it's so competitive.
Yeah,
That's insane, bro. That's fucking crazy. This is kind of like curling for Canada, straight up. Like Canada is fucking insane in curling.
yeah.
That's like that. I mean, that and hockey is like one of the two things that we're so good at. But like people don't understand how difficult it is to qualify curlers to go to the Olympics, because it's like the Canadian Championship, like for the curlers, is actually harder than the actual Olympics itself.
That's nuts.
I didn't know that. I had to like fucking read it. I read it somewhere.
Yeah,
But
right?
like we have so much talents for curling in Canada.
I know.
So it's very similar, I think, in China for diving.
And I wonder too, like if that's the same with like acting as well, you know, like if there's like these hot spots. But then at the same time, the really dope thing about acting is like actors come from like everywhere.
Right.
You know, like it definitely feels like Vancouver, LA, Toronto,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
that's kind of what we live and
Mm-hmm.
that's where like the industry is.
Yeah.
but there's so many actors that can just get picked up from these small little towns and stuff. Like Brad Pitt's kind of a famous one. He just came from like this small country town. Bro, do you know Russell Bear? Headshot photographer. He does my headshots, and he lived with Brad Pitt growing up.
What?
Yeah, and so
he lived with him, like in the same house.
Same house. Like they were doing auditions and stuff, and like they're both trying to become actors. And everyone looks at Brad Pitt as this like, he got his career started when he was like in his 20s with Thelma and Louise, but it took him about like 10 years until he really kind of blew up with that, because he came to like LA when he was like 18, and it took 10 years of kind of just like all this grinding, doing like extras and things like that. And then
he didn't want to,
when he hit 28, it was like boom, he got Thelma and Louise, and things kind of took off.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy how it goes, man. Like sometimes people have it like, everyone's on a different like path. Like it's just
right. And
sometimes like it takes like fucking. I've seen people like who fucking did it in like fucking couple months.
Yeah.
But again, it's like because the stars are aligned for them.
Totally. And there's an actor, Jabari Banks. He plays Will Smith on Bel Air. We did a movie together, and he was telling me his story. He was going to this like art school, and he told his agent when he got signed, he was like, I don't want to go out for any small roles. Like, I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
I just want to go out for big projects. First thing he booked was Bel Air.
First thing. Ever. First audition, just booked.
I don't know if it was his first audition, but that's the first thing he booked.
Wow. Crazy. That's
so
impressive.
I think, there's so many different ways to get there. And I think, it's just, there's no straightforward path.
There's no right and wrong answer. But I think what I really realized though, is that us as Canadians, like, as long as we don't like we need to go to the States at some point. I just feel like staying here, it kind of depends on what you want. If you want to be like a working actor, then sure, you can make this happen here. But I feel like if you want to be like a lead and like consistently, like, go up for like lead roles and whatnot, I feel like it's just not going to happen if we stay here.
Yeah.
I mean, is it me? Like, because like, I'm a very, like, I'm a very like analytical person. I look at the facts, right? So like I look at the facts and look at the pool of people that there are in Vancouver. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of like really, really good actors. But when you look at like all the series that get shot here, right? Like all the big ones that we go up for, like number 1, 2, 3 is always cast from LA. Like it's just never here. Like we'll get like maybe series reg at best, but like it's very rare that like we're in the top 3 of the cast. Like, I mean, it just goes to show that like, if we really want to go for that, that most prestigious role, then I guess like we need to be American to a certain extent. But no, but it's like
we just have to be American.
It's how it is. Like I'm just gonna say it how it is.
It's
just
like marry an American,
right? So I mean, like you need some sort of like American status. Like you need to be like it needs to be like American on your fucking paper somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just like but like sometimes it does happen when you're on a show, you're in a movie. You leave such a good impression that you get upgraded, and next thing you know, you're like a series reg on the second season or something. But it doesn't always happen, right? Especially for Canadians. So I mean, I don't know. It's just like a tricky situation, and sometimes I'm thinking like with all the tensions that there is right now with Canada and the States, right? With all the tariffs and fucking Donald Trump, like sending us stuff up, and we're like, fuck. Like the thing is like, yes, we should retaliate and we should fucking like stand up for ourselves, but at the same time, if we piss off the fucking American productions, are they gonna keep hiring us as Canadians? You know what I mean? Like it's just like how much we want to piss off these guys.
Put a tariff on Canadian actors. Yeah.
Fuck, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're gonna like decrease the amount of Canadian cast that we have because they're fucking firing back with tariffs, which is like the normal thing to do. You know what I'm saying? But anyways.
Yeah.
Little side note. Okay, so you diving.
Well, I was gonna say, kind of going back to that point of how there's no like straightforward route with acting. Like some people get booked right from the get-go, and some people take years until they finally make it into the spotlight. And so for me, I remember feeling like university wasn't what I was like wanting to do.
Right.
Just didn't feel right in my bones.
So you knew this like very, very early.
Yeah, especially as I got closer in my like later years of high school. But for my parents, it was like an absolute no-brainer. You know, it's like you go 4 years, get your degree, and then you can go do whatever you want.
Right.
You know,
once you have something,
that degree, it's like, especially
safety nets.
You're trying to like live in Vancouver and get a good job. It's like some of these like
especially like when you tell your parents like, hey, I want to be a diver and I might be an actor. Like, these two things that are like not super like, like very, classical, like people be like, oh yeah, I mean, like I'm gonna become a diver. Like it's like, no, it's not like very supported.
Yes, totally.
So yeah, I guess.
So I think that's maybe like when I didn't end up going to university, my parents were a little bit apprehensive because they're like, what are you doing now? And I didn't know what I was doing either.
Right.
And that's kind of when I decided, I was like, oh, maybe I'll take this acting thing a bit more seriously.
Yeah, let's open another avenue. Yeah.
And I thought that, because I maybe like booked like one thing in grade 11, booked something in grade 12. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just like, start booking.
And you had no prior experience. It's not like you trained at that time, or did you?
I think I did some like workshops with like casting directors and stuff.
Right.
But I hadn't done any like training like in a class setting, like repetitively throughout the weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I was just like, yeah, this will be easy. I'll just start acting and that'll be my thing.
How hard could it be? I booked like the first two things and like, it seemed fine. Like they seemed to like me on set.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And that's like, I joined the Actors Foundry where you and I met.
Yeah.
And I was training with Matthew for a while. And
how old were you at the Foundry? Like you were
like
quite young,
18 or something.
Yeah, you were like a baby
18,
at the time.
19. Yeah. But there was maybe about like a year and a half or 2 years where I wasn't booking anything. There was like some TV shows I got really close on. Like they flew me out to Toronto for like chem reads and things like that.
Right. Didn't quite make it.
And didn't quite make it. Yeah. And my parents kind of going like, what the hell are you doing, Sam? And then COVID hits, me and my girlfriend break up. I'm back at home, and it's just like I'm in the pool house. I'm like making like shitty SoundCloud rap music, and they're like,
"Bro, what is this?
What is going on?
Where's this going?" Yeah,
right. But that's when I started taking Deb's class online.
So how did you find out about that? How did you know about it?
My agent, yeah.
Oh, Mary, she
said like either go like try Matthew's class or Deb's class, and I did Matthew's, and then I think I did his online. I was just ready to like switch it up a little bit.
Yeah. You
and
felt like
then,
you had your time up with Matthew.
Yeah, so I did Deb's during the pandemic online, and as soon as classes in person opened up, I went and started doing that. And yeah, sure enough, like 2021, I booked like 7 things that year. Wow. It was just like boom, 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 boom.
That's crazy. Would you say it's because of her?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think I don't know if I'd say it was because of her.
Okay.
She definitely just helped me get that little extra like that.
At the end of the day, it's all you, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's you.
It's all you. But I think it was just that little extra thing that just helped me click up into that point. But I wouldn't say it was all her.
What do you think that was? That little thing, that little click.
That's a really good point.
Because like I had like other guests as well who had like similar sort of like career with Deb.
Yeah.
And I always like ask them, what is that thing that made you that change, that clicked for you?
For sure. And I will just say like, I really enjoyed Matthew's class, and I felt like as an actor just trying to figure it out, that was such a good foundation to build on. It's like he was actually teaching you how to act.
Yeah.
Some of these classes you go into and they're just telling you things, but they're not teaching you like the bones of what it is.
Yeah.
And that was just like such a good way to start fresh.
Yeah.
And kind of like, oh, this is how scene analysis works. This is how you can get emotional.
Yeah.
This is how you can get connected with people.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so I think it was just like all those things were accumulating, and I was getting close with auditions. And then I think Deb, she just got a really good eye for like what kind of works. And maybe I don't want to. She doesn't like give you line readings, but she gives you new ways to approach the lines and like techniques onto like how to get through to your objective and stuff.
Yeah.
And it helps you kind of like break free from maybe like stereotypical deliveries and just like taking things off of the page. And I also think too, just the way her class is set up, like, you know, it's kind of like invite only for Wednesday, or like she'll bring you into the class if there's like room on the wait list and stuff. And so the actors in her class are already at a really high level.
Oh yeah, no, I noticed this like fairly quickly. Like everyone is just so good. Even the Tuesday class, honestly, bro. Like everyone is just like booking material stuff.
And yeah, so exactly, they're all kind of like working actors and stuff. And so I think the environment is just one thing. It's like you're working with great people, so you kind of want to get better.
Yeah, 100%.
The second thing is, it's like first week you're expected to be fully memorized, props set up, blocking figured out. So when you do all that work to get into the first week, and then you have 3 more weeks to go, you just get to discover way more, versus if it's a 4-week class and you start with a read through, and the second week you're kind of doing a little bit and and you only do it all the way through on the 4th week, then it's like you don't get a lot of time on your feet. And so that's what I liked about Deb's class, was the work was kind of put onto you. The preparation was like, you got to prepare and come in and we can work it.
I mean, that's kind of like the impression I got with Deb, where like it's like a little more of an advanced, like, I mean, like Deb expects you to know how to do the script work. She expects you to know how to get emotional. Like you should know how to do that, like how to do this prior to you going to Deb. Whereas Matthew, as you said, like, you know,
he teaches you how to do it.
Yes, which is nice. You know, like, I mean, like it's a great way to start, because like nobody fucking knows, like, you know, that, like, oh, you know, there's goals, obstacles, tactics. What is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't know anything. It's like it's
emotional preparation. What? I should prepare for that. You know what I mean? Like, so
it's a foreign language. If you've never done it before, you're like, what the heck? And then when you start doing it more and more, it's like, oh, I get it now a little bit. And so I think that's what it was just like lots of time on your feet acting. You know? Totally. And she has like a high standard for her students, you know. She will call you out if you're not prepared, and
been there.
And it's like I think that pressure just kind of forces you to
get better.
And that's like her whole motto. And
that's what it's called, right?
And then I think it was just like after taking her class for a bit, it's just that year things were happening, and
nice.
Next year, it was like I did a movie outside of Canada. Like I did one in Belize, which was so sick.
Is that the one that was on Netflix not long ago that I saw you in?
No, that was Time Cut. There's Time Cut and Bad Genius. Bad Genius was on Apple TV.
Right.
This movie is on like freaking...
Wait, you went to Belize for this?
Dude, I went to Belize. Yeah, it was sick. I remember...
They flew you there?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I saw the like audition. I was like, this is shooting in Belize? Oh, how sick would that be? And then I got it. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm fucking go to Belize,
Yeah. Interesting. Like, it was like...
What's it like there? Like, what was Belize?
It is...
Well, first of all...
humid.
Where the hell is Belize? Yeah.
It is kind of like close to Mexico. I don't know.
Okay, so it's like
South America, but not so far south.
Right.
It's
a little more north or whatever.
It's like if you're looking...
Panama? Ish?
No, not quite Panama. I think it's like if you're looking at the map and like there's Mexico, it's like a bit to the right, somewhere around there. And it's this little...
like one of those like random islands on the right?
It's not an island though. It's like on land. Yeah, okay. But there's a lot of little islands there.
There is, the Caribbean.
And that's where we filmed, was on this tiny little random island. And it was so funny, bro. Like we were getting into the boat with all the filming equipment, and it's like these
on the boats,
these local Belizeans just like taking us out. We're like going over waves, and I remember the director was like, fuck this, we're getting a bigger boat, I'm done with this movie. We're like not doing it. Like she's like, we're gonna die.
Getting irritated.
It was so funny. And it was also, it was really fun but tough. It was hot, and the sand was very bright, so it was hard to keep your eyes open during your scenes, which sounds like a little...
The sand was like, it was like literally hurting your eyes.
Yeah, so I remember just kind of like closing your eyes and then like, hey, ready, and you just like open and try not to cry.
Right.
But it worked well if you had to cry, because you just started tearing up.
Yeah, you just don't blink.
Yeah, right.
You're just yeah.
That's my favorite. It's like on your close up, and a little bit of wind gets into your eyes, and it's like it's tearing up.
Yes, yeah. It's always nice when that happens. So what was the role?
It was these like 2 girls get deserted on the island. I come in, Finn, I'm like the guy who's gonna, like, I'm part of the rescue team, but then turns out I'm like a human trafficker. But I think, you know what? I wish they did like a sequel or a prequel to this story, because my character's like 18 or something, like really young. And it's kind of like in this dystopian.
You're a human trafficker at 18?
But so that's why I think, you know, he's I guess an assistant to them, you know? So that's why it'd be so interesting to the prequel to be like, how the hell did Finn end up in this situation? Because he's also a young buck, just like these like two girls on the island. Right. And it's like in this dystopian kind of COVID-esque post-pandemic time where like everyone's getting sick and stuff, or in a pandemic. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how he got there, and that was something I was thinking about when doing the role. And it's kind of sad because they end up like having a good relationship on the island, and then when they find out that he's trying to like get them abducted or whatever, they end up killing me. Spoiler alert. But anyways, you don't have to watch the movie. It's
well, I kind of want to now. Like, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's sick.
But and then it was like, so that was 2022. 2023, Mary called me and she was like, I think you're ready to get LA management. And it's like, I know these two guys, Brandon and Steven. I think they'd be great with you. Do you want me to like pitch them to you? And I was like, hell yeah. And that was when I got LA management. And then it was like right after that I booked Bad Genius. It was kind of like right as I was doing it. Right. And that felt good because it was like.
So what do they do for you, these managers? I've never like really understood like
the difference between managers and agents.
Yeah. It's just
I think for them, the way they described it was managers are really seeing your entire career. Like, okay, what's your career going to look like in the long term? And they can kind of like set up some other things like that. Yeah. Also, they're in LA, so they get me all the American projects. They send it to me.
Right. So you do get seen for American stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which has been awesome. And you know, there's like, I can say it on the podcast. I think maybe like there was like one instance where I went out for this role through the Canadian casting, but my American managers were like, oh, we know the guys at this production company, like we'll just send it to production. And so that was just like one thing. That was one thing that was like, oh, that's such a helpful thing to just like bypass all that other stuff, because there's times where like the Canadian actors don't get seen. Yeah. I didn't end up getting it, but I got the call back, which is great.
Yeah, I mean that's a win. Yeah.
And so there's just like, and they get some really cool projects that they can put me out for. Yeah.
So like, do you ever like go for like lead stuff like in LA, like all these like big shows that get shot here? Like, would you have like an equal chance of like, you know, like going up for this than someone who's like based in LA, for example? Would you say?
I don't know for sure, but recently I've been starting to go out for these bigger projects, which is really cool, because it's like, I'm like, whoa, these movies are sick.
Right.
I don't know if I'm getting lost in the mix or if, you know, my auditions are getting seen. I feel like I'm putting out really good work and I'm getting good feedback from my representation.
Yeah. I've seen you.
So I think maybe like, maybe it is more of like an equal chance, and especially if it's shooting in Vancouver. Yeah, it's like I'm a Vancouver local. You don't have to pay me
more. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So that's sick. Okay. Yeah. So that was the LA stuff.
So that was 2023, and then, so I'll just give one little thing, kind of going back. So then 2024, I booked like this one project, and it was like a 3-movie deal, which was great in Kelowna. It's just like some MOW stuff. Yeah. But so since 2021, it was like I was working on something, I had something coming up, or I had something that was going to be coming out. And after Time Cut came out on Netflix, it was the first time since 2021 where I wasn't working on anything, I didn't have anything coming up, and I didn't have anything coming out. Right. So now I'm in this place again of like
fucking nothing going on.
I'm like, oh my God, like
I've never been there.
No, I have been there. I was there, but and it's just like I'm like, oh, here we are again. So now what it feels like is the exact same as it did in like 2020 before 2021 happened. But at a different level. Like I remember in 2021, I think I cried tears of joy when I booked a supporting lead on a Lifetime movie because I was like, fuck yes. I was like, this is so good. I've been like wanting to get a supporting lead role on a Lifetime movie for so long, not just some 2-liner or whatever. Yeah. And now it's like, I mean, I'd maybe take a supporting lead or maybe not. Like I'd just go for leads and on the MOW and stuff, and not in like pretentious way. That's just like kind of not. I'm not maybe doing that.
You are where you are in your career, and you always want to get better. Yeah.
And so now it kind of feels like, oh, I'm going for this next step, and it's like I'm really kind of pushing, and I really do feel like on the cusp of a breakthrough. Wink, wink for the podcast.
That's why we're here, man. Like it's called breakthrough.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I've got nothing lined up, but I'm going out for some really cool things.
Listen, if you do get that breakthrough, we can watch this back and be like, bro, look, listen, see, like we called it.
Yeah,
we called it. You know, so like it's here,
and
the living proof of it
for sure. And I think this is the first time in a long time where I've felt that like confidence of like I really feel like something's gonna break through. And you know, I think that's maybe what's kind of changed a bit for me. Acting is like now I believe in myself a bit more, and it's so cliche, but before I might have been like just as good, but I didn't like feel it, even if people would tell me, oh, you're great, you're gonna break through, you're doing all these amazing things, like you got it, Sam. People are like telling me all these wonderful things, but I didn't believe myself. Now I'm just starting to go like, yeah, okay, like I think I can really do this. And I feel like my skills are more in tune, and
you feel like you're becoming a stronger actor, and
that's exactly how it feels.
And it's good to have these realizations sometimes where you're like, well, like I'm getting better, because you know if
you do get better. That's the most amazing thing about it. Is you 100% get better when you're practicing and training, especially if you're like in a good class and you're around great people.
Yeah,
it just happens. It takes a while, and you kind of suck at it for a really long time.
But eventually,
eventually you just start getting better, and you don't even notice it until you look back and you're like, wow, I've really come a long way.
Yeah.
And so that's and
sick.
I think too, like when you start off, you feel like really confident because you don't know what you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so when you're learning, you go, oh man, I have so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Like, and so you kind of maybe lose some confidence, and it takes a while where like your skill and confidence level matches in some sense.
Yeah.
And there's always tons to learn. And like this winter too, I was like, I feel like I don't know how to act. I'm like so miserable. Like, is it my haircut? I don't know. Like,
it must be
I need to get jacked. Like, I don't know what's like happening.
Started going to the gym more now. Again.
Yeah. Well, I have been going to the gym more. That's been one thing I've been doing.
I mean, if you have more time, then right, like it makes sense,
dude. Well, and I think Timothée Chalamet talked about in a podcast how early on his agents were telling him like, you got to put on some muscle mass if you want to like get these leading roles, and he was kind of like, you know what, fuck that, I'm just gonna do my own thing. And like he kind of just like stayed a little bit like skinnier, and he booked all these really kind of cool projects, slick roles, like Lady Bird, and then he did Beautiful Boy and Little Woman and all these things, Call Me By Your Name.
Crazy.
Whereas I maybe felt like I was just kind of in between. I wasn't like really strong, but I also wasn't quite like a little skinny, lanky guy.
Yeah, you've never been like that.
And so maybe in September, I was like, I got to make a decision on like what I want to go for.
Right.
And so I've been like working out pretty consistently since September, and I put on some muscle for sure, which feels really good.
Nice.
Love it. And yeah, I'm excited.
So are you trying to get jacked? Is that what you're trying to say? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely trying to get jacked. I'm like eating lots of protein and calories and
Nice.
working out a bunch.
Yeah.
And I think because I'm also getting older, I maybe just want to go towards older roles, like less. I love doing the high school stuff.
Yeah.
Like high school jock is kind of my jam. Like I know how to do a pretty good job at that, but I'm excited to play some of these older characters who are just maybe a bit more interesting, and I want to try get like a bit more menacing or something,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
Like I don't want to be this like cute golden retriever puppy dog, which I know I am. And I'm also kind of like I'm also a bit like surfer stoner guy, you know, like what's up, man?
Well, let's talk about that then. Like I mean, like if you could pick a role if you could choose a role that that you could have, what would that be? Like that villain-ish sort of like
dude, I would love
a serial killer on a show or something.
I mean, that'd be really fun too.
That'd be sick. The guy behind.
Well, okay, this is kind of me being hypocritical going back to high school jock, but it would be really fun to play like Harry Osborn. Do you know the character James Franco played in Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
The son of the Green Goblin.
Oh fuck yeah.
So like someone like him,
someone like that,
but with Tom Holland, because I feel like all of Tom Holland's villains are like way older than he is, like in the Spider-Man series, like and like
he's always like fighting adults,
right? So I'm like, he needs someone
he's like a fucking kid,
his age, and I feel like we could just match each other.
That's so true.
But like on the opposite level, you know, like I'd be a bit of like an anti-character for him or something,
right?
And like we could start off as friends and then just have a bit of a beef and whatnot. That would be, I'd love to do like something like that, go toe to toe with Tom Holland for like a villain role. That'd be super fun.
That'd be sick. Give him some hard time,
But then outside of that, I mean, like I would love, I think, to do like a war movie would be sweet.
Yeah.
I think I also just want to shave my head too.
Like a Nazi style sort of.
Yeah. But yeah, no, for sure. Like a World War II movie would be really cool. Or you've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yeah, it won an Oscar, didn't it?
Yeah. I think like a parallel universe movie where it's like you got to play a bunch of different characters in one project would be super fun too. Or have you seen Bandersnatch? Black Mirror. It's like choose your own adventure story.
Yeah.
That would be a really fun thing to work on too, where it's like you have all these like fractal universes that you can play in.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good challenge. Or something like
what about sci-fi? Like, do you find yourself in there? Like playing some like supernatural stuff? Like a vampire, or like a fucking sorcerer, like a wizard, or some shit like that.
Sexy vampire. Okay.
You know,
I think would I do vampire werewolf?
Sammy the vampire.
Yeah, right.
Call him Sammy.
Bloodsucker. No.
Buffy.
What would I? Yeah, I mean, maybe I'd be down to play like a demon or something.
Yeah.
Get possessed by something and just be out of control. That'd be really cool.
You know where I could see you though? I think like you would make like a really good Dexter.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I could fucking see you like, you know, being underground, like fucking 7 floors down, fucking dissecting the shit out of people. Maybe it's just me, but you know, the spin-off.
Doing that already. No, I'm not. Don't worry.
I love it. I want to go back to that for a second because I know we were talking about this before the podcast. I know you said that she asked you at some point if you wanted the easy or the
hard scene in Deb's class.
And then you regretted saying that you wanted the hard one. So what happened?
I don't know if I regretted it. I actually think I really enjoyed that I chose the hard scene.
Right, but you didn't know what you signed up for at the beginning when you said that.
No, it was really tough. There was like something about like this kid who had a pet goat and he was traumatized, and then he figures out the goat's name and he has like this like traumatic attack, and it was just like a really challenging play. I was with Mike T that month, and I think Mike T is like an awesome actor. Like I love watching him work, and I was like so excited to work with him. And I worked really hard on it. I did like a bunch of script work, like trying to figure out this character's emotionality and his backstory and all that stuff. One note she gave me was like, you know, you can memorize your lines and get emotional, but if you don't know like your blocking, and if you don't know kind of like what your character's doing and who he's talking to and stuff, like it kind of gets lost in the mix. You need to incorporate all these other layers too. And it was
give it a taste. Yeah.
a really good lesson for me too, because I remember that month particularly, I was like, okay, I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking pot. I'm waking up at 8 a.m. every morning. I was like, I really want to get this. Like, I'm just going to commit to this. I really want to do a good job. And I didn't. I kind of failed at it. But I remember being really kind of like upset with myself. Like, I remember I had to go for a walk. I just left class. I was like,
you have to fucking shake it off.
Yeah, I was like, freak, you know, and I was bummed. It's December. It's like such a fun month, you know? But I had a really good kind of conversation with myself where I was like, you know what? I'm still super proud of you because you worked really hard at it. And my performance wasn't my goal. My goal was I'm gonna just stay like kind of like sober for this next little bit and just like really dive into the work and give it my all and just make sure that I'm not like leaving anything out there, you know? And so I was like, I can give myself a pat on the back. Whereas this other time, there was maybe one scene where my character was like a bit of a pothead, kind of like nuisance. And, you know, I think I smoked some weed before class, maybe had a couple of beers or whatnot, which I don't do anymore. And I'll humiliate myself. And like, I've done that maybe like once or twice. And
let's just hope Deb is not watching this.
Yeah. And if she is, you know, fair enough. I just don't do that anymore. And I'll tell you why I'm telling this story is because it was actually a good scene. They were like, she was like, yeah, you just kind of like had this like not give a fuck attitude. Like you're just like so dropped and locked into it. But afterwards, I felt kind of like shit because I was just like, I didn't try, which is, you know, fair to some degree. Is like sometimes when you try really hard, it comes off like schmackty, which is a good lesson too. But I didn't like put in the effort, and it didn't feel rewarding for me because it was kind of like I was just dicking around, you know? And that was like a really good lesson and kind of like deciding factor for me where I was like, yeah, I'm never like smoking or drinking before like acting again, you know? And like there's times, you know, where it's like you gone out for happy hour and you're like, oh, let's do this self tape, and it's like you're maybe feeling a bit loose and stuff, but it's like I'm like, that's not me. And I think it ends up being really detrimental in the long run.
I think also, bro, if you want my opinion, I think it's also not fair for your scene partner.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because like, I mean, look, when you, again, it's always about your scene partner, never about yourself, right? So when you feel like you owe it to yourself to come prepared and give it your all to your scene partner. So again, if you're drinking, if you're doing weed and all that good stuff before class, well, I mean, it's kind of not fair for them, right? Where it's just like, it's like, well, I mean, like, you know, they put all the work, they're ready to go.
And then
they're just waiting on you to fucking be as ready, and you're fucking stoned. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I feel like, there's also this layer where you kind of owe it to your scene partner.
100%. And I you know, I'm saying this now as a way to like kind of like humiliate myself. And I'll put it like on the record that that's kind of maybe what I did in the past, and it's definitely not something that I'm doing now. Like I
self accountability, man. It's
you know, I don't even really smoke pot anyways now. It doesn't really matter. But it's just kind of like that was just a good lesson I learned. And I totally agree with you that it's not fair to yourself. It's not fair to your scene partner. And, you know, it wasn't like I was blubbing my lines or anything like that, but I just still think.
I mean, listen, bro, it's just like, it's, I don't think these things are bad that they happened. The reason I'm saying that is just because one of my buddy, like he's been on everything, Marius Gavrelis, like he's like an LA guy. And he told me, again, like phenomenal guy, man. He's been literally on everything. And he said, like, one of the secret to like all of this is just to live life. So like, you know, the fact that you've actually like, you know, smoked pot and got drunk and did all those things and blah, blah, blah. It's all things that you could literally tap into when it calls for it, when you need that, you know, because you're like, Well, you know, I've been there. Like,
Yes.
you know what it's like.
Totally.
Right. So like, it's not like you. Again, like I don't see this as like wasted time or like, oh, this me.
There's a lesson there.
You know what I mean? There's always like stuff that you could take that and just like, you know, bring it with you and use it later on. You know, if the character like needs that or something. So it's not like, you know, completely lost.
No, I 100% agree, and I think that's every like every opportunity, or like, you know, even like my serving job right now.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's like, it's not fun at all. I mean, sometimes I get
I mean, I don't know any serving guy,
but there is things to be learned in that too. It's like, okay, I really don't want to work right now.
Yeah.
But I have to, and I have to connect with people. That is like such a great exercise in itself, because when you're acting, there's gonna be lots of times when you're like, you know, lead on a series, and it's like day 40, and you're like having to do this scene with a guest star, and you're just like, oh my god, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to get over yourself and be present with them. Yeah. And so I think every situation you find yourself in, even if you don't enjoy it, there's always a lesson to be learned there and take away.
100%.
And going, I'll give one more final thing on this kind of like drugs and stuff.
Right.
There was a scene that I did this December.
Okay.
And it was a total wacky scene. It was from a play called Detroit, and these guys are like drinking beers in it, and like we like take LSD, and we're like smoking weed, and we're just being absolute hooligans. We like set a house on fire and everything.
Right.
And I did it like I was like completely sober, like didn't have like anything to drink or whatever.
That was pure acting, right? Like you were acting the effects of the drugs and all.
And it was probably one of my best scenes I've had, and also one of the best times I had.
Sick.
Because
that's
it was, the scene was asking for me to let loose, and it was like I got to feel high and drunk, and just by like letting myself go there, you know, and just like being a total like kind of like hooligan and having fun.
That's exactly what I meant. Like, you know, like when the script calls for it, since you've done it, like, right?
Yeah,
it's easier. It comes easier to you. Like, it's just, I'm not someone who does drugs or like you know, gets drunk or whatever. For me, it comes harder because I would have to like watch videos. I would have to like picture like my friend doing this. Like it's always easier when you actually do these things, and to portray them, like it's always like an easier time. But for someone like, I remember like the first role I had, like I was like on a short, like fucking like when I first started acting, and I had like the first when I walked into the audition room, the guy asked me like, hey, like, we just want to make sure that you're aware of this, but like this is a smoking role. We just want to make sure that you're comfortable with that. And they're like, hey, do you smoke? I'm like, oh yeah. And I mean, if you know me, like I literally do not smoke. Like I've never fucking smoked a cigarette. Like it's just never happened. And I somehow, like, I don't know, like I guess like the performance must have like carried it or something. But I got the role, right? And then bro, I literally fucking went on YouTube and I was like,
how to smoke a cigarette?
Smoking tutorial or something. Bro, I don't smoke.
No, yeah.
I've never smoked. So like again, like it's just like there's a way that fucking people like, you know, like hold the smoke and like when to inhale, when to exhale, when to fuck, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's all like, it's hard when you've fucking never done it, bro.
Yes.
And like you gotta fucking sell it to the public and make it seem realistic as if you're like a heavy smoker. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm taking a smoke because like I want one. This guy's been smoking for decades.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he like it's his life. So I have to fucking sell it in a way that it's authentic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a shit show on set, but we made it work. Again, you know. It's just
how
like,
do you smoke a cigarette? What do you do? Let me see.
I mean, I don't know. Fuck. It's just like there's like different ways. I from the YouTube stuff I saw, sometimes people like do that. Just like, you know, you just like.
Yeah.
And then you look around and then.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that, but like if you're like smoking weed, you would like fucking use these two fingers. Yeah.
I believe it. We're hotboxing the place right now.
Cigarettes, it's like you use like these fucking fingers, and weed is like these two, bro.
Yeah.
Like have you ever seen someone like smoke a cigarette with these? I mean, it doesn't happen. It's not like it doesn't happen, but like,
you know what
this is like a weed position. Like fucking cigars. Sometimes like people like use this. Like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
It's like the fingers placement man's thing. Like it's just It's honestly like impressive. Like,
Finger placement 101.
pretty much. But I mean, yeah, it's just like a little side thing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no wonder you were proud of it, right? Because you brought it to life without you doing
Yeah,
any
totally.
yeah. So it's obviously good. Um, cool. So I guess like I didn't really know what happened. Like, so what you said, like she gave you a hard scene. Did you pull it off? Like, is that what you said? Like, did you made it work or like what?
That's like the December, a few Decembers prior when she gave me the hard scene.
Yeah, when she said like
I did not pull it off.
Okay, that's fine.
I would love to do it again at some point.
Redemption.
But like I said, I didn't actually. I was okay with myself that I didn't pull it off
That's
because
fine. Yeah, that's totally
I
fine.
put in a lot of good effort, and that felt really good.
That's a victory by itself,
Yeah.
bro. That's really good. Okay, so let's talk about the acting process a little bit. I want to know, like, what do you how do you actually like break down your stuff when you get an audition or like a role? So obviously you've trained out the Foundry. Do you still use some of that today, like, or like you kind of you've kind of built a system for yourself, or do you not do like any of that at all, like, or it's just all in your head?
Yeah.
It's like when it comes to like when you get an audition or like a script or like a scene with them or something, how do you, from the moment you get the lines to the moment you lift it off the page, what do you do?
Okay, so back in early days,
Yeah,
I would do 100% everything that I learned from Matthew's class,
makes sense. Yeah,
and it was helpful.
yeah.
Because it was like a kind of bulletproof way
What's
of
a
how to
framework?
like
Yeah.
approach the script. And so I followed all those things like 3-act structure, circumstances, objective, relationships,
Counterpoint, all that
emotionality,
shit. Yeah,
drrrr, realizations, decisions.
Yeah.
So I did so much script work.
Yeah.
And
It's,
then
it's very extensive, honestly, when you think about it.
oh yeah, totally.
It's very extensive. Yeah.
All the verbs and whatnot. And then I moved on to a different class called Untold Wants. Jess and Aina are the names, and
Nice.
they were really great teachers. They were kind of Stella Adler method, and that was different to Matthew because Matthew's kind of very much like breaking down the script on the page and figuring out what the objectives in the moment and stuff were, and like using verbs and stuff.
Right.
Whereas this class was like you didn't do any of that,
Uh-huh.
and it was all backstory.
Right.
And so it was like the 5 pillars. It was like economics, ecological, political, inherited values.
Interesting.
And then one other thing that I'm forgetting right now, maybe like religion. I don't know what it was. No, that's inherited values.
Education, maybe?
Maybe. Oh, yeah. It was something about like class level.
Okay.
Status, yeah. Anyways, so I did that for a long time. And so when I get scripts, I'd write a bunch of backstory. Like auditions, I'd do like 10 pages of backstory for like
auditions?
For auditions too.
Wow.
But I was glad that I did because I was training still.
Yeah.
You know, I was putting in really good work.
Yeah.
I was building that muscle. And then I started, Deb, she gave some stuff kind of like from Udahagen, and I was doing all those little things. And now it's kind of come to the point where for auditions, I slowly started doing less script work.
Fair.
And just off like instinct, kind of like intuition.
Right.
Cool ideas right off the bat. Like read it, like, oh, what if I did this? And then just kind of go for it. And that's actually when I noticed that I started booking more.
Right.
And I think what it was.
But you still do like the bare minimum of like script stuff. Or it's just all in your
think
head?
like
or not?
Maybe earlier on, yeah. Okay. Now it's like I maybe don't do as much script work, but I'll get back to that.
Okay.
I think the reason why I was working was because I had done all of this preparation in class and with prior auditions. So I started to learn this technique and get it into my body, and I understood it.
Right.
And so I could stop relying on just like having to actually write it out. I kind of like knew it a bit more. And then I was letting my own personality shine through, which I think for auditions and stuff are really important.
Yeah, 100%.
Like seeing what you bring to the page, not trying to like necessarily get it right or do what the casting director wants, just being like, this is how I look at it. And so now how I feel my process has changed is for class, I'll put in a lot of work. I'll be like, okay, this is my time to work, throw shit at the wall, make some bold choices and stuff, do backstory work, whatever I want.
Yeah.
And then whereas for auditions, it's more just like get the lines memorized and just kind of play around with it and see what lands.
I mean, it makes sense that, you take less time like doing the script stuff for the auditions, because if you do book it, right, like you'll have time to do all of that.
Yeah.
Like for like when you go on set, like you have plenty of time to prepare it and, maybe dive more into the backstory and all that good shit. So I kind of like get it from that perspective as well. Like it does make sense, especially if you're like crunch on time, if you get like a lot of auditions all at once, you don't necessarily have the time to always like do extensive work on paper. So
yeah,
I can see it.
I will say it's not that I'm not working on them. I still work like pretty hard on my auditions. I think now it's maybe just like trying to take the pressure off of doing the homework. I think sometimes in acting classes, teachers will really like kind of look to see what homework you've done, and you can be like really goody two shoes and be like, look at me, I've done all my homework and I got all my things with the highlighter and da 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 da. But it's like you can do all the fucking homework that you want, but at the end of the day, drop the ball. It's like really kind of like what's happening in the moment too. So that's like there's some people who kind of just like walk off the street, pick up the lines, and just give like a truthful, honest delivery, and it's like, wow, that was great. And so I think the thing with acting is that there's not always a correlation between the work that you put in and the outcome. It definitely helps. And I definitely think it fills in layers. And like when I'm working on a project, it's like, I'm definitely going to put a bunch of work into it. Now, I think what's happening for me right now is the realization of kind of going full circle of now I feel I can do more work and then let it go and not be so precious with it.
I agree.
And
I mean, the last thing you want to be doing is just like thinking about your objective as you're saying your lines.
You have to just get locked in the moment.
Just like know them, know what, have a rough idea of like what's happening and just like, let go of that and just be in the moment, listen, react off of your partner.
And I think, I'm also like making specific choices in my head now, I guess, when it comes to getting the sides. And I'll like read them over and let myself kind of whatever's there come up and give myself permission to just get like really vulnerable with myself, just in my own quiet time, and just be like, wow, that line really makes me feel something. What is that?
And I'll just something about that line.
And I'll ask myself questions. I'm like, okay, what is that for me? And then what is that for the character? And just try to like bridge the gap between the two.
Interesting. Love that. Is that like your to-go method, I would say, like when it comes to like working on an emotional piece? Like if the script requires you to get emotional, like feel a certain way in the scene, like how do you go about this? Do you still like use some of the Matthew stuff, like with the emotional preparation, or you found something that works more for you?
All sorts of different ways.
Right.
Sometimes I'll pull from what's going on in my life. Sometimes I won't. I'm just like imagine what the character's going through.
Right.
And sometimes it's really just like breathing and saying the lines like you mean it. And so, like just letting the words take you there and connecting with the other person and kind of letting the magic happen that way. It's such a weird thing to get emotional. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
I mean, it is like, it's just like, this is something that can actually be learned.
Yeah.
It's like going to the gym. Like, the more you train, the better you look. And the more you cry, the easier it's gonna come for you when you need it.
I think
it's the same thing.
What it is, it's like in today's society, well, it's actually getting better now. People are more vulnerable, which is really nice and authentic. But we're still kind of taught to keep our emotions reserved, and for good reason. We don't want people crying all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like you have this faucet, right? That's been like closed shut for years. And so it's probably like caked with rust and stuff. You got to really pry it open.
Yeah.
And so the first kind of few times you're doing it, it's really hard to get it open. But the more you just like open it, close it, open it, close it.
Yeah.
It suddenly like the water is just pouring out, and I
Definitely.
yeah, I feel like I definitely cry after my first cup of coffee in the morning for some reason. The caffeine, yeah,
That gets the tears going.
tears of joy. I don't know. It's like hallelujah.
Yes, I needed that so badly.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
I think going kind of back on like all this technique stuff. One thing you hear a lot of actors say is like, do what works for you. And I think a better way, and something that I'm trying to, maybe not a better way, this is my belief,
Right.
is trying to make all these different ways work for you. So that's why it's like I've taken all these classes, and I think it's really important when you go to take an acting class is you have to forget everything else that you've learned and be a beginner in that class.
Right.
And just soak in whatever the teacher's giving you.
I agree.
Because you'll just like have all these new tools to draw from, and every audition's different. And so I was kind of saying, oh, you know, I just pick up scenes and maybe put on tape. That's not the case all the time. There's some times where it's like I'm really working this over and I'm writing a bunch of stuff, but it's audition dependent. And so now it's like I just feel I have these different ways of going about it that I can use, and I feel comfortable using them. And I think that's important too, because every project's different, every character's different, and every like director's different too. Some directors, you know, want you to be word perfect. Some are gonna be like, these lines fucking suck. Can you make something up? And you gotta be able to improv. And that's one thing I'll say is kind of going back to people being stuck on their homework is I think you need to be very adaptable, because there's lots of times on set where they'll be like, we're scratching these lines. Here are some new ones.
No, yeah. Doing it on the spot. That's crazy.
And
on the day of,
you just on the day of, and you just got to go, okay, and figure it out.
Adjust, yeah.
And adjust. And I think I've seen it in acting, and I've also seen it in sports too, like in diving. I had
sports,
like a friend that I was diving with.
Right.
I'll give an example.
They changed the height?
No, it was, here's what it is. He had a very kind of like strict regimen for like, which I think routine is really good, but sometimes it can be a bit of a fault. Like he would go to training and right after training, he would eat one thing, and then he'd get home and eat the same thing, and go to bed and he'd eat the same thing every morning. And it was all very structured. And then when he got to competition, we'd be in a hotel room. So he's not sleeping in his bed. We'd be eating different food at different hours, different location. And all of a sudden, he's a great diver in practice. But when it comes to competition, he would be hit or miss. Because now it's like he's got all this new external information that he's not kind of used to when he's at home training. And he can't figure it out. And I think it's the exact same thing with acting. I think you can get stuck into patterns with ways that you work, and then you get into a new environment and you kind of freeze up. I think you got to be able to be super adaptable. And it's like when directors are giving you notes too, you got to just like ditch everything that you've done and
take them like a champ,
you know, and kind of do that. So I think that's a big belief of mine, is just
love it.
You can't be too locked into something.
I agree. The more, again, it's just like putting more in your arsenal, I guess, just putting more tools in your arsenal, basically, right? You want to have as many tools as possible. So like when the situation is there, like you want to be able to tap into like different sections. Because like sometimes not everything is gonna, like sometimes you can always like reuse the same thing and expect it to work. Like just sometimes, especially for me, like if I'm doing emotional stuff, sometimes breathing helps, sometimes substitution helps, sometimes just like other stuff. Like it's always like something different, and very often like what I used once is not gonna work twice, just because I've exhausted it. If
100%,
per se, right? So it's always good to have like these different methods and just like, you know, have them there, so you know you could always like try new stuff if things don't work out.
And I think a lot of teachers, like some styles is like the down up method. And when I say that is like you do all this emotional preparation and then it comes out externally, like with your body language and things like that. And I think that's a really realistic way to work with emotionality. On the flip side, though, it also works the other way too, going top down. And like how if you change your body position, if you're maybe like a bit more hunched up, or if you're kind of like opening up your soft palate or something, and just how a different body position can invoke an emotional response.
True.
You know, you hear about people having like the power pose, you know, it's like head up, shoulders back, like arms wide,
pose,
and you can just feel like confident and relaxed. You can control your breathing, and it's like your cortisol levels go down, all these things. And I think you can do the inverse too. You can spike your cortisol levels. You can get yourself kind of agitated and in emotional state and do it that way as well. So I think both ways work. I think, you know, you can kind of fake it to make it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and not to, I don't
you can
think
get away with it. Like
you can't fake it in the scene is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I guess.
But in the rehearsal, maybe,
or maybe what it is like you've got to allow yourself to go there.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, people talk about being grounded, and this is something that I'm working on too, like not trying to push anything and just really stay grounded. But I think sometimes people try not to push, and you're pushing, not pushing. Does that make sense?
You're pushing, not pushing.
Yeah.
Right.
Where it's like you're like, I'm gonna just be super grounded. But then you're almost just flat because you're not allowing anything to come up.
Right. You're just you're just
I think you kind of gotta have this little balance in between where it's like, yeah, okay, we're getting emotional and like just you know, going with the flow of it.
Allowing
it to come up, not trying to just being so chill and just expecting yourself to start crying in an instant.
Right.
Nor trying to go like, I'm gonna start crying. You kind of gotta find this
that fine line.
Flow. And that's what I love about acting too, is you can't muscle through it.
Yeah.
But you also can't just sit back. Sometimes you can sit back and chill. It
Right.
depends on the scene.
Again, it kind of depends, right? Like it's just like it also depends on the emotional state of your character prior to what's happening. You know, like sometimes it doesn't always like start sad and moody.
That's a huge thing too. It's like sometimes
what if you're at a party and you're partying, you can't fucking be just, you know, still and fucking prepping it up, right?
Yeah.
You gotta amp up your energy. You gotta fucking sell it, and then boom, that's something happens.
And then you start the scene there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's scenes too where it's like you're partying, and then you find out in an instant that like your mom got into a car crash, and then
180-degree switch.
180-degree switch. And so those are really interesting ones too, because it's not like you can go into the scene like with your eyes all teary and stuff. It's just this real life in the moment kind of thing where you just
it doesn't get more raw than that. Really,
and that is really cool too. And so I think that comes back to just being like really present and just listening and allowing things to happen. And you know, sometimes there's not wrong answers to that necessarily. Like if someone tells you that and you laugh, because that's just the emotional response that you have. That can equally work. If that laugh kind of turns into a more serious like question, and then like
comes out,
the fear and the tears and whatnot. But if you're living it truthfully in the moment, then that's what reads. The camera doesn't lie.
Right.
You know, it sees you.
Yeah.
So if you're bullshitting,
you can tell. Yeah, people can sense it. You can never forget.
But sometimes not. Sometimes you can kind of like.
I mean, you can get away with it like sometimes, right? Like especially if
sometimes you feel like you're bullshitting, or maybe you're not in it, and then everyone else is like, "That was amazing." You're like, 100%. What? And sometimes you feel like you're really in it, and they're like, "That sucked," and you're like, "Huh." And so it's so strange.
It's very subjective. Like it's just like. I've been there, like where sometimes I feel like what I did sucked and I didn't like it, and someone else is watching it like, hey, bro, that was, damn.
And I think
like
in those scenarios, the reasons why it's sometimes good is because you're maybe not saying it how you thought you might say it. You're like, oh, this sucks. I'm not kind of getting to where I thought I was going to get. But you're just in it, and people are like, wow, that was really good.
I love it. Sick. I just want to I want to go to before we actually end this, but I want to talk about character development real quick. So what do you so we obviously talked about lines, memorizing, script analysis, and all that good stuff. This is great, but when it comes to building the character, and again, we talked about backstory, but as far as like the physicality, right? So how do you give the character like the body language it needs? Like if this guy is shy, you're more closed off. How do you know which accent it needs? How do you know like how do you make sure that this character is not Sam?
Yeah, right. That's something I'm really working on.
I'm always like scared about this, where I'm like, fuck, I don't want this character to sound like me, because it is not me. But also, like at the same time, there's always a bit of you in each character.
Of course,
right? Like it's not like, oh, it's like 100% different person. Like there's always like 3% of Sam in there, and you try to find that little,
And that's what makes it. That's why they hire you.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's no one else that can do you than you.
100%. So how do you build this? How do you build a character?
Well, that's
just off of the lines that you have.
Yeah, that's honestly something that I've kind of been one of my main focuses right now is like breaking free from my own mannerisms, because I'm like a pretty laid back kind of guy.
Yeah, you're very just like,
I've got maybe
high energy and like all that good stuff.
Yeah, and I've got a very kind of like modern speech pattern, maybe like will like draw out my words, have a bit of vocal fry or whatever it is. And so I'll give first answer is I've did this one theater camp in Penticton, and it was figuring out kind of like your blank slate body position. It was very theater-esque, like getting totally in line with your spine and head and everything, and just kind of finding this like neutral posture.
Right.
And then from there, kind of trying out these different types of energy where it's like, being really big or kind of like ecstatic and stuff, and figuring out what those are.
Yeah.
Then you can introduce into your character. So and then also with like my voice as well, I'm trying to get better at singing, so I'm doing a lot more vocal warm-ups, and it's still kind of very vocal fry-y, but it's way better than it was back in the past. So
your voice, it sounds great. There's nothing wrong with it.
Thanks. And so that's like my first answer is figuring like kind of dismantling your own mannerisms in some sense. Right. Like if you talk with a lisp or a vocal fry or whatever.
Right. If you say a lot of ums, for example, if you're someone who's I do say a lot of ums, and sometimes I'm catching myself adding like ums and
in the scenes, right
when the scene doesn't call for that.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe the lisp isn't a good example, but the ums is a much better example. Yeah. So like catching yourself and breaking free from what you're doing then.
Yeah.
And if you're able to get to a blank slate, then you can start building the character upon that. And so for me, that's a lot of it can be kind of top down. Like I'll watch like maybe like documentary clips of things. Like I did this audition for the guy who assassinated John F. Kennedy, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
And so I was trying to figure out, like, he's got like this kind of weird Southern accent, and then he's like, he's got like his like lips kind of tucked like this, and he's like a little bit like kind of stoic, but like this weird jitter behind him too.
Right.
And I was maybe just trying to like mimic it, like break it down, like his face feels a bit more scrunched up. His like eye contact can be sometimes really intense, or it'll be like all over the place.
Right.
And then also just his tone of voice is maybe a bit more monotone. And I'll try break it down.
Interesting.
And figure out what that is. But so then that's for a real life person. Where if it's like for a fictional character, you can kind of apply those same things. It's like, oh, this person is like a lawyer, so they're probably speaking quite eloquently
Right.
and professional,
It's
and
more
they hold
polished.
themselves
Yeah.
in a way. A big thing for me now, especially with self tapes, is selling the character off of the first image that they see of you, like what you're wearing and how you're holding yourself. This would be a really cool kind of lawyer if I was playing a lawyer right now. He's super laid back and chill.
Yeah.
But
He's not in costume right now, but yeah.
that's been one thing that I've paid more attention to is my attire in building the character.
100%. I mean,
because
it helps you to act.
It helps you act.
If you suit up, for sure.
Exactly. Like when you put on a suit, you feel different.
100%.
Whereas if like
you can't tell me if you put on the Flash suit that you don't fucking feel like the Flash.
Exactly.
There's no way that you're not gonna feel like the Flash. Like it's you. You know, you're definitely gonna feel different, closer to it at least.
Yeah.
Right. So
it works both ways in the sense like, okay, what would my character wear? For what reasons? And then you put them on, and then it kind of makes you feel that way. And so I'd say like mimicking, figuring out kind of their voice, how they hold their face, how they hold their voice.
So I think my question is like, how do you know from just the words, the page, which like mannerisms these words, like for example, you're reading the script, you're reading the audition, okay, this guy is gonna be okay, this is a shy guy, he's closed off. He always has his hands together. His voice is a little lower in pitch. I'm not as confident. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you know all of these things just off of words?
Off of words.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Right. Well, you kind of get a bit of a character breakdown. So it's like, for instance, like Bad Genius, Pat Stone.
Yeah.
It was like this super rich, privileged kid. And it was like goes like at this private school and things like that. And in his words, he's like kind of pretty cocky, doesn't really care too much. Money's not a big thing for him.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know who this guy is.
You could relate it.
I went to school with these people.
Right.
You know, and
you know
maybe
exactly
even a bit of me too, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I grew up quite like, not like extremely wealthy, but very wealthy, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I just remember for Pat Stone specifically, I was like, I've seen these guys in high school, and I was like, I'm just gonna kind of copy what I saw in high school.
Yeah, 100%.
And
that's all you gotta do, really. So like, we're basically copying. Every time we create a character, it's that we're copying someone that we know in our lives that is close to what this is.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think the opposite too, like with like maybe like a more shy character, we all know shy people in our lives.
100%.
And we see people on so many different types of people on the street like all the time. And so it's kind of just like seeing, I don't know, what they're doing and copying them, and then finding the reason underneath too helps. Like, why are they speaking this way?
True.
Right. And why do they feel like they have to close off? Like, what are they protecting?
Right.
And then you can kind of like, once you understand that, you can like your body will just do whatever it needs to do to like kind of take care of that wound and protect it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I
don't know if that quite makes sense. But
100%. No, I agree totally. Yeah. It's, again, as you said, like the breakdown of the script, the words, and sometimes just like when you actually start like saying the lines, you're like, oh, I see. Okay, this is like how the line is being said. So therefore, you're like, you discover stuff, right? Like sometimes like reading the lines and like just the language itself, right? Like the way the script is written, you're like, oh, okay, I see. This is not how I would talk. So therefore, a character from my age right now would work. Like it's just like I would have to tap into someone who's from the 80s or from the 90s because the wording, the language is a bit different. This is not how I would speak. Nobody around me would speak like this. So like I can't have the character looking like this. It doesn't make sense, right? So like there's all these things. Sometimes just the language, as you said, the breakdown. You know, sometimes when they say like, oh, this character is it's a laid back guy. He's just, or like whatever. He comes from the country, so like he's a little more like, you know, like used to like working and you know, so yeah, as you said, like, you know, stuff like that, which is but again, this is like one of the hardest thing to do sometimes. It's just to, again, like because this is basically what sets you apart when you audition, right? It's just like if you can send a take that is different from everyone else, if you're just gonna read the lines as like you, then there's no point of even sending the take. I feel like, right? So this is why I feel like character development is just so hard, and not so hard, but like it's so important. And I feel like in Vancouver, there's not a lot of. I just there was more classes like or like workshops that teaches that sort of skills. You kind of have to just like figure it out yourself by doing the backstory and just tapping into your life a little more if you know someone who does that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think on that note of, setting yourself apart in tapes, I think a good reminder for myself too is breaking free from those stereotypes as well. It's like when we think about like a shy person or a really confident person, I'll give a confident person example. Like you might think that they're super big and super loud, but maybe actually a confident person is kind of a bit more reserved and they know that they don't have to be so abrasive or like so upfront because they
well, I mean,
feel
sometimes you just never
confident in
know. Like
themselves.
sometimes they're overcompensating by being like super like this because
Exactly.
they're trying to
Exactly.
right they're
And so I think breaking free from stereotypes and getting real too is a huge thing that like a lot of people have taught me, especially my partner Shanti as well. Like we do tapes together and they'll be like that's good, but what if you just kind of tried it like this? And it's like, oh yeah, and it's so helpful
give you like really good notes.
When you have an outside eye that can give you notes. And I think that's why good acting friends are great and class is really good because it kind of like aligns your acting compass a bit.
I love it.
Which is good.
Let's love it. All right, before I let you go, I just want to, the last question I guess I have for you is that, what are some of the stuff that you're working on right now? I know like we kind of like touched on it a little bit, said like, oh, this is like, I haven't felt like this in a while where I'm just like not looking forward for anything that is coming out soon. I'm not working on anything. Everything is just sort of like quiet, but it doesn't have to be acting related, but is there anything that you're working on that you are looking forward to, or even some resolutions that you maybe set for yourself this year? Anything you want to share with us that you think is we should know?
Yeah, I don't know. I got working on some music that I want to put out pretty soon.
Nice.
I am doing a Crazy 8 short film at the end of February, so I'm excited to do that because it's like the first short film that I've done. And then it's just been like auditioning lots in class. There's like one project that my partner and I are working on that I won't say what it is exactly, but I'm really excited for people to see.
Cool.
To see that one.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I'm sure you'll be dropping some bombs when it comes out or like when it's closer to coming out.
Yes, 100%.
But dude, what an honor to have you on the pod.
Yeah, thanks, Ali.
Like hopefully, we'll have you some other time next year, a few months, whatever. But that was a blast, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And again, guys, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next one and stay safe.
Ciao,
Peace
ciao.
out.